Mark Levin here. After any presidential election, I take time to reevaluate my own financial investments. That's why I continue to invest in gold for help with my financial protection. When it comes to gold, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're a top gold company in America, and that's who I turn to for my own gold purchases. Call them now at 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit. And see if you qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. And tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. You know, I'm noticing that we have many of our brothers and sisters in media and elsewhere who are jubilant. We're jubilant. I'm jubilant. But they're letting their guards down. Donald Trump has a whole bunch of cabinet nominees who have not been confirmed yet. Today they went after Robert Kennedy Jr. I'm not a Robert Kennedy Jr. ideological guy. But I decided to watch a lot of this hearing, and I was extremely impressed with the man. I don't believe I've ever met him. But I was very impressed. Especially with the way he handled his fellow Democrats, particularly the more extremist among them. And you can see how these Democrats are stretching and pulling and pushing and attacking him for how he litigated, attacking him for how he ran a foundation, asking him how he made his money. This is what they do. He also made it clear that there had been some private discussions when he met with certain senators, issues resolved or dismissed as unimportant, that they brought up during the hearing, and he said, you know what you're stating isn't true, and the fact that you're bringing it up now points it out. So they had these confidential meetings, or at least private meetings, and for the Democrats, it doesn't matter. Anything goes. Now, I've told you before, my position on this is simple. Donald Trump should get the people he wants. This is a first round. We're talking about cabinet secretaries here. And we hope they all work out. But he won the election. These are the people he'd like to have helping him. The Democrats are already slow walking a number of these nominees. They'll let some through, like Rubio gets through 99-0, or they'll let this one through or that one through. I saw Lee Zeldin got through today at EPA. Even he had almost 40 votes against him. So this is just part and parcel of what's coming and what's happening. Now, what do I mean? Their judges are acting up. Whether it's the judge in Seattle, the judge in Washington, D.C., and I'll get to this pooling of the memo in a moment. It's really no big deal. Of course, the media is all excited. And then there's the media. You know, I go to these various media aggregation sites, including those by the so-called, used to be called mainstream media, which we now know has nothing to do with the mainstream. They always have a negative twist, a negative title. They always lead with something that's ominous about something that Donald Trump has done. His position on the illegal immigrants will drive up inflation and the cost of food. Always, always, if not looking for a dark cloud, creating a dark cloud in their reporting. The war against Donald Trump has not stopped. Whether it's the media, the Democrats on Capitol Hill, or the courts, the war has not stopped. Now, people say the Democrats aren't sure what they stand for anymore. They're bouncing around. I see it. It's just a matter of time until they unite, because that's what they do. One thing they unite around is their hate for you and me, their hate for Donald Trump, and quite frankly, their hate for this country. Their policies, virtually every damn one of their policies, is harmful to our society, our culture, our republic. I've said over and over again this week, as we watch the courageous men and women of federal law enforcement go after the most ruthless murderers, rapists, drug dealers in our country, imported into our country by Joe Biden. And I've said to myself, and I've said to my wife, and I've said to you, how is it that Donald Trump and his people know where to find these people, but Joe Biden didn't? The fact is Joe Biden did, and he affirmatively allowed murderers, rapists, child molesters, and so forth and so on to roam the country, to live in our neighborhoods and our communities. This was purposeful. When he said the border was secure for 2.5 years, he lied. When he said we needed bipartisan legislation to fix the border and to deal with the criminals in our country, he lied. Donald Trump's plowing ahead. He's plowing ahead with the wall. He's plowing ahead going after these murders, these rapists, these pedophiles. He's plowing ahead. He's not waiting for bipartisan legislation because it was never needed. Our laws are good laws. Our immigration laws are good immigration laws. It's never been the fault of the laws. It's been the fault of the politicians. And that's the truth. And you watch the media the last 48 hours, the last 76 hours, or whatever, 72 hours. One after another. It looks like the Third Reich. What about human rights? And we haven't even gotten to people who haven't committed violent crimes yet. We're talking about the people who have. Oh, how dare you? How dare you catch other people who are here illegally while you're going after the criminals? I guess they don't understand the program. The program is, if people don't depopulate, if they don't self-remove themselves from this country, then they're going to be removed. There's no need to split up families. Parents can take their children. These parents did this in the first place. They knew exactly what they were doing. It's not Donald Trump's fault. It's not Holman's fault. It's not anybody's fault but the people who acted this way. A country cannot survive this. It just can't. But isn't that the point of the Democrat Party? They don't want us to survive it. They're not into political differences or even social differences. They're into societal differences. That is, like the French Revolution. The French Revolution wasn't about representative government or the monarchy or anything else. It was about destroying the existing society. Edmund Burke wrote about it brilliantly. He had been a member of the British Parliament. He had an Irish background. One of the great, we believe, we conservatives, one of the great thinkers, one of the great scholars. He said the difference between the French Revolution and the American Revolution is night and day. The American Revolution, they're not out to destroy society. They're out to strengthen their society with representative government. And he supported the American Revolution, even though he was really a resident of Britain. He rejected the French Revolution, which he pointed out was, it's not a revolution about government. That's a revolution about destroying the French society. And it was bloody, and it went on for 10 years. The slaughter was unbelievable. The guillotines never stopped. And they replaced one tyranny with another tyranny. Not so in America. Not so in America. You have to accept the fact, and I say this knowing full well it'll be repeated, but I've been doing a lot of reading, thinking, writing, and I'm going to pull together all of this. You have to accept the fact that these people reject the Judeo-Christian principles on which this nation was founded. They reject the principles of natural law. They reject the principles of individual liberty and free will. They reject it all. Whether they're hardcore Marxists or Marxists by default, they sound like Marxists, they act like Marxists, and they promote ideas of the Marxists. That's what they are, and that's what they do. They even lie repeatedly. Donald Trump didn't put out any order affecting any entitlement program. None. And yet there's Chuck Schumer, hunched over like a stupid old man, going on and on about food stamps, on about Social Security, trying to scare the hell out of people. But it was utterly ineffective. What Donald Trump's trying to figure out is how do hundreds of billions of dollars go to these non-government radical left-wing organizations? How do hundreds of billions of dollars go into all this woke and DEI stuff? Hundreds of billions of dollars into contracts and grants. They're going to Planned Parenthood. They're going to this. That's your money. And he says, I want to put a freeze on it and take a look at this. Oh, my God, he's destroying Social Security. No, he's not. They haven't changed, and they're not going to change, because the Democrat Party isn't merely a political entity. It is an anti-American ideological operation. That's what it is. That's what it is. That's why it's a party that welcomes a Tlaib and an Omar. American haters, Jew haters, bigots, racists, they welcome them with open arms. That's why they welcome AOC, who is a bartender Marxist, a moron. But they promote her. They promote her in the media. She's a big deal, don't you know? That's why they're rooting against Trump. You can go right now. Just look at any of these sites, any of them. You can look at the worst of them, like Mediaite or the Drudge Report or entities like that. Or when you open Google, you can see those sites, MSN and the others. It's constantly negative toward anything Trump does, as they cherry pick the articles that are the worst of the worst. And while it's true the media are in a bit of an upheaval, if you look what's going on at the Washington Post and the LA Times, you look at CNN's having problems with its money and MSNBC, the fact of the matter is, if you really think about it, at their core, they have not changed. We're still hearing about Hitler and the Nazis, except when it comes to Hamas, Iran, Saudi Arabia. Then you don't hear about Hitler and the Nazis. Then you hear about the Jews and Netanyahu. But when it comes to Hitler and the Nazis, again, they point to Trump and you and me and all the rest of it. These people are destructive. They're evil. And they're desperately trying to manipulate the population in this country, the people. You look at their headlines, whether it's on the Drudge Report or Mediaite. You look at the headlines on many of these other sites. They're pathetic. They're sickening. You listen to these Democrats on Capitol Hill, they haven't changed a damn bit. You look at their tactics are the same. Smear, character assassinate. It is amazing to watch the Democrats on this committee. Every damn one of them who loved Ted Kennedy. Every damn one of them that didn't give a crap about Chappaquiddick and Mary Jo Kopechne. Every damn one of them that didn't give a damn about another Kennedy who was accused of rape in Palm Beach, and you can give whatever story you want. Caroline comes out. Is she aware of her father's history? God rest his soul for sure, but is she aware of the things he did? Is she aware of her grandfather's history? Back-channeling to the Third Reich, his sympathy towards Nazism, that he had to be yanked as ambassador of Britain? And his rabid anti-Semitism when he ran a studio in Hollywood? Is she not aware of that? Robert F. Kennedy Jr.? He's the big problem? Seriously? You can disagree with him and disagree with him aggressively. But she sought to destroy her cousin, utterly destroy him, humiliate him. On the eve of his hearing, she's talking to her fellow Democrats. Go ahead and knock him off. Do you have more respect for Caroline Kennedy as a result, or do you find her contemptible and unconscionable? I find her contemptible and unconscionable. Now, Tulsi Gabbard will be next. I'm not a big Tulsi Gabbard fan on the substance, but if Donald Trump wants her, Donald Trump should get her. Kash Patel, I am a big fan. If Donald Trump wants him, he should get him. I don't like the dingbat over there at the Labor Department, the leftist who's bought and paid for by the teachers' unions. I don't even understand that appointment. But you don't hear me coming out urging you to oppose her. Let's see how that works out. Apparently, the deputy secretary appointee at the Education Department, according to our friends in Tennessee, conservatives, school choicers, say she's the worst of the worst. I don't know why that woman was picked. I don't have the foggiest idea. And we will be mindful. We will be resolute. We will be watching it all. But the enemy is the Democrat Party because they don't believe in the country. We're not talking about an appointment here, appointment there. We're talking about a chorus line of haters who will do anything for power. They're hungry for power, who will do anything. And they haven't slithered back under their rocks. They're not hiding. They're reorganizing. They're trying to figure out the best approach. It's not easy when you're facing Donald Trump. He's a genius at this. But they're there, and they're on the move, and it's just a matter of time. And they want to take the House in the worst way. You know why, Mr. Producer? What do you think they want to do? Impeach Donald Trump again. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Did you see what the Federal Reserve did literally days after President Trump's victory? It's lowered interest rates by a quarter. Do you know why it did that? It's worried about the economy. It's worried about the fact that jobs aren't being created. We're seeing all kinds of shifts in our portfolios, and it's important to stay aware. That's why I'm urging everyone to diversify and consider gold as one of your financial shields. Now, gold has weathered every kind of economic downturn throughout history. I want you to call Advantage Gold. They're the best of the best, folks. I've dealt with all of them. They're the best. They're my gold company. 1-800-900-8000. Get a free gold investment kit to see how you can get started with gold. I recommend Advantage Gold to anyone who's serious about protecting their wealth, and that's you. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit, and you can even qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Call them now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. You'll be very happy with them. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. They said, yes, we had bipartisan immigration legislation that Donald Trump killed. We couldn't do what Donald Trump's doing. I want you to understand something. If the Republicans going along with the Democrats pretended there was bipartisan legislation, which, by the way, Mitch McConnell was behind in one of the biggest bonehead moves in legislative history, and then he votes against it. But he creates this incredibly negative campaign issue. If the Republicans had signed on to it, most of what Donald Trump's doing today would be unlawful. You understand what I'm saying? It would have sealed in the high numbers of illegal immigration and most of the rest of the Biden open borders, fentanyl, terrorism, Venezuela gang, immigration policies. Oh, and I forgot. Child pornography, missing children, and women sold into sex slavery policy. I'll be back. The markets are volatile. They're shooting up wildly only to drop without warning. The Fed just cut rates yet again, this time by a quarter point. Why? Because the Federal Reserve is not confident the economy is strong. In fact, last month only 12,000 jobs were created, all of them in the government. That's why I'm telling you again, diversification is crucially important. And diversification with gold is what I do. And the company I use, and I've used many, the best one is Advantage Gold. Call them now at 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit to see how gold gold can help you diversify your investments and take advantage now. Now, gold has been helping to protect and grow wealth for people for thousands of years. And in these times, it can be more crucial than ever. When it comes to gold, I trust Advantage Gold. They're one of the top gold companies in America. They're who I turn to when I purchase gold. Call them now, 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000 now for a free gold investment kit to see how gold can help you with your investment portfolio, a.k.a. your bank accounts, your paycheck. And when you do, you could qualify for $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Folks, don't wait. Call them now, 800-900-8000, and tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
Mark Levin, the champion of liberty and true conservatism. Call Mark now, 877-381-3811.
I want to remind you folks, which I haven't done for like 2 months. Bad me. We have a podcast, you know. You can hear us on our podcast, which basically simulcasts the radio program. You can go to marklevinshow.com. That's the mothership. All kinds of cool stuff on that website. It's been there for a long time. marklevinshow.com. Click on Audio Rewind and select your favorite platform. Some of you already have your favorite platform. So just search Mark Levin Show on your favorite podcast platform, and we're right there. Maybe some of you are not familiar with how all this works. Ask your kid or your grandkid. That's what I do all the time. You can now find us also, the full podcast, interviews, specials on YouTube. We have our own YouTube channel. YouTube.com at Mark Levin Show. YouTube.com at Mark Levin Show, or search Mark Levin Show on YouTube. It's that simple. And you can get the podcast there. You can get all kinds of things we've put together there. So we're available on your favorite platform, marklevinshow.com, or search Mark Levin Show on your favorite podcast platform, which you may already have. And again, we have our own YouTube channel, the full podcast and all the rest of it, interviews, and we even do specials there. YouTube.com at Mark Levin Show, or search Mark Levin Show in YouTube. That way you can get all 3 hours right there. What else is going on in America today? Well, what has Donald Trump done today? He's done so many things I don't have enough time to even catalog them. But he did something very, very, very important. This is from the White House. President Donald Trump takes forceful and unprecedented steps to combat anti-Semitism. Did Joe Biden take forceful and unprecedented steps to fight anti-Semitism? No, he did not. In fact, his administration reeked of anti-Semitism. From the State Department to the Defense Department to the people at the White House to the National Security Council, I could give you names. I can give you the whole list. It reeked of anti-Semitism. Now, look, we have some anti-Semites in our own ranks, some of whom are fairly popular, and what's very interesting about it is they're having absolutely no effect on Donald Trump. None. Zero. They're special pleaders for Iran. They're special pleaders for Putin. They're special pleaders, you know, and then they claim they're America first. I've seen these clowns before. They're not America first. They're low IQ. It's a small cabal. And they're cons. They're cons. You're a neocon. I'm not a neocon. I know what a neocon is. A neocon is a former Democrat who supported Russia, then saw the light, like Jean Kirkpatrick. Last time I checked, she wasn't Jewish. She was a great patriot. And then they flipped, became Republicans. Reagan picked her up, and there were many like that. That's what a neocon is. Not a Jew. But for the anti-Semites, whatever works. So now if you support Israel, if you're an evangelical Christian, if you have no faith, and you support the state of Israel against terrorists, including terrorists who attacked us on 9/11, terrorists who want to get an atomic bomb to put on a hypersonic missile, not aimed at Tel Aviv, aimed at New York, aimed at Chicago, aimed at L.A., aimed at all of our major cities. You must be a neocon too. Stupid, moronic, but then again, it's a distraction. Here's the President of the United States, Donald Trump, And by the way, any of these bastards want to come on here and debate me, they're free to do it. Period. Not if they're a low Lilliputian. I mean, one of the biggies. You know, we went to big fish. This is a statement put out by the White House combating anti-Semitism in the United States. Today, President Donald J. Trump signed an executive order to combat anti-Semitism. Expanding on his earlier executive order, 13899, President Trump's new order takes forceful and unprecedented steps to marshal all federal resources to combat the explosion, this is the language in his release, of anti-Semitism on our campuses and in our streets since October 7, 2023. Every federal executive department and agency leader will review and report to the White House within 60 days on all criminal and civil authorities and actions available for fighting anti-Semitism. And he underscores all. Immediate action will be taken by the Department of Justice to protect law and order, quell pro-Hamas vandalism and intimidation, and investigate and punish anti-Jewish racism in leftist, anti-American colleges and universities. The order demands the removal of resident aliens who violate our laws. Are we going to hear from the liberal Jews how proud they are of Donald Trump? No. They'll be on TV. Well, Biden, nothing. This continues. This is on the White House website. Going on offense to enforce law and order and to protect civil rights. Immediately after the jihadist, sounds like I wrote this and I didn't. Immediately after the jihadist terrorist attacks against the people of Israel on October 7, 2023, pro-Hamas aliens and left-wing radicals began a campaign of intimidation, vandalism, and violence on the campuses and streets of America. Celebrating Hamas's mass rape, kidnapping, and murder. They physically blocked Jewish Americans from attending college classes, obstructed synagogues and assaulted worshipers, and vandalized American monuments and statues. The Biden administration turned a blind eye to this coordinated assault on public order. It simply refused to protect the civil rights of Jewish Americans, especially students. Believe the strength of this, Mr. Producer. According to a December 2024 U.S. House of Representatives staff report on anti-Semitism, quote, the failure of our federal government departments and agencies is astounding, unquote. It says President Trump keeps his promises and builds on his successes. In the first term, President Trump kept his biggest promise. He moved the American embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. After decades of broken promises and despite much criticism, can I get to the second page of this thing? Come on. I've got to. I just got this too, you know. This is fascinating. Hold on, America. Hold on, America. Oh, there we are. All right, come on now. It goes on, and I have to skip a little bit of it. Talks about, obviously, moving the embassy to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv. He established the Abraham Accords. President Trump delivered the greatest breakthrough for peace in the Middle East in decades by brokering the normalization of ties between Israel and the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco, protecting Israel and Jews and spreading security and prosperity to the entire region. Now, President Trump has promised that the federal government will protect the civil rights of our Jewish citizens. My promise to Jewish Americans is this. With your vote, I will be your defender, your protector, and I will be the best friend Jewish Americans have ever had in the White House, quote unquote. Aggressively enforce the law, protect public order, and prosecute anti-Semitic crimes. Quote, I will issue orders to my attorney general to aggressively prosecute terroristic threats, arson, vandalism, and violence against American Jews, unquote. Deport Hamas sympathizers and revoke student visas, quote, to all the resident aliens who joined in the pro-jihadist protests. We put you on notice come 2025. We will find you. We will deport you. I will also quickly cancel the student visas of all Hamas sympathizers on college campuses, which have been infested with radicalism like never before. This is who Donald Trump is. This is why the Democrats and the media fear Donald Trump. You see, when they call him Hitler and sympathetic to the Third Reich, they're really identifying themselves. They're projecting. Donald Trump will be remembered in the Middle East by the good guys for 1,000 years or more. For 1,000 years or more. When these Lilliputians in the media, when these little cabals of anti-Semites on the left and the right have long disappeared. Disappeared like the Babylonians and the Iranians of the past, the Persians. Disappeared like the Greeks and the Romans, if I hadn't said that already. Disappeared like Adolf Hitler and the Third Reich, and the Jews remain. And the Jews will always remain. Read the Bible. Donald Trump has a deep understanding of this. Like he does so many things. He sees what takes place. He saw what took place. Do you think Kamala Harris would have done any of this, Mr. Producer? There's no way, because she had a bunch of anti-Semites around. But she's married to a Jew. That's identity politics. That's irrelevant to me. Obviously to a loser. Obviously to a moron. So what? So what? The New York Times was owned by Jews during the Holocaust, and they covered up the Holocaust. It is what it is. But this is what Donald Trump did today. Now let's see how much he is celebrated by NBC and ABC and CBS. Let's see how much he is celebrated by the so-called Jewish ownership at the New York Times, which now is kind of mixed because the family married into Lutherans and whatever. It doesn't matter. Let's see how much they celebrate this at the Washington Compost. Let's see how much they celebrate it in the American media. You know, the media doesn't always have to trash Trump. It doesn't always have to character assassinate and smear Trump. It doesn't always have to try and sabotage his agenda. You know, every now and then, just here and there, he should get plaudits. Plaudits. But you see, the Jew hatred in the media runs so deep, and so deep in the Democrat Party and their ideology. You can't be a Marxist and embrace Judaism, because they are polar opposites. Frankly, you can't be a Marxist and an evangelical Christian. They're polar opposites. You can't be a Marxist and a faithful practicing Catholic. They're polar opposites. But as we've always said, Judaism is the first of the religions, and they're the first, the point of the spear. And so the Jews take it in the neck every single damn time. And Donald Trump stands up to this. Is there a Democrat somewhere in Washington, D.C. who does that? Look at Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer, I'm told, is half Jewish. I don't care if he's half or all Jewish. He brags about his Judaism. He stabs the Jewish people, the state of Israel, and his faith. Not literally, obviously. You can't stab a faith in the back, but he undermines it. Every day he's in the damn United States Senate. Because he's worried about the AOC Marxist Islamist wing of his Democrat Party in New York. And so he kowtows to it. You see him bending over forward all the time like he's davening. He's actually bending over backwards for the most radical elements in the Democrat Party. Tell me, has he condemned AOC? Has he condemned Tlaib? Has he condemned Omar? Has he? Has he condemned CARE, the Hamas front group that works side by side with the Democrat Party and their imams? Has he? No. He attacks Netanyahu. He scapegoats Netanyahu. Because Schumer is the worst of them. The worst, and by the way, as a side point, I've been thinking about this too, and then I got to take a break. This guy, Bill Maher. Why do you people slobber over Bill Maher? Did you hear what Bill Maher said? Bill Maher hates Donald Trump. But a guy like Bill Maher is really smart, and he's figured something out, and he's not the only one. Donald Trump is enormously popular, even with his audience. So he's figured it out. What I'll do is I'll trash the radical left in my party, of which he used to be a part. I will trash them. I will position myself as the anti-AOCs, the anti-Talibs, the anti-kooks on the left. On the other hand, I will, not every now and then, but more than every now and then, make sure I take really big shots at Donald Trump too. But I'll say just enough to be praised by my friends in talk radio, my friends on Fox, and my friends in other conservative sites. They'll literally play my videos and audios about how great I am. Rush once said it to me. Maybe he said it to the whole world. Why do we feel, we conservatives? He even said we Christians, but obviously I'll say we Jews. Why do we feel that we need affirmation by the radical left, by Democrats, by Hollywood, by entertainment? Why do we feel we need that affirmation? You see it all the time. Did you hear what he said? It's not just Maher, it's others. Wow, did you hear what that guy said? Whoa, that's great. Why do we care? We don't need affirmation from these people. They need affirmation from us. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Did you see what the Federal Reserve did literally days after President Trump's victory? It's lowered interest rates by 1/4. Do you know why it did that? It's worried about the economy. It's worried about the fact that jobs aren't being created. We're seeing all kinds of shifts in our portfolios, and it's important to stay aware. That's why I'm urging everyone to diversify and consider gold as one of your financial shields. Now, gold has weathered every kind of economic downturn throughout history. I want you to call Advantage Gold. They're the best of the best, folks. I've dealt with all of them. They're the best. They're my gold company. 1-800-900-8000. Get a free gold investment kit to see how you can get started with gold. I recommend Advantage Gold to anyone who's serious about protecting their wealth, and that's you. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit, and you can even qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Call them now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. You'll be very happy with them. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. I just figured it out. Donald Trump is a neocon. Yes, he's a neocon. He's a neocon. He's an Israel firster. That's what he is. I figured it out. This is what these dumb bastards say. If you make sense and you speak out about things you see with your own two eyes and put your brain to work. Why would we back the Iranians? Well, we've instigated them. We've instigated the Iranians? Our very existence instigates the Iranians. They murdered American Marines who were in Lebanon. They weren't in Iran. These American firsters, you're an American firster, they pretend to be American firsters. Say, we're the imperialists. We're looking. If we would just stop supporting Israel, if we would open up areas of discussion with the Iranians. Shut up, you morons. You're going to get the whole country blown off the face of the earth. We'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Ladies and gentlemen, on our Fox shows this weekend, our first guest on Saturday will be Senator Ted Cruz, and our first guest on Sunday is scheduled to be Chrissy Nome. So we'll be going over a number of things. And we certainly look forward to your participation. I'm sure you've all set your DVRs and your smart TVs. There's no football Saturday and Sunday. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? There's Life, Liberty, and Levin. 8 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Sunday. And I hope you'll join us. The reason the Democrats tried to put Donald Trump in prison, the reason why they impeached him right out of the box, not once but twice, and unleashed a Russia collusion investigation, the reason why they've done all these things is because they knew better than most that this day would come should he win the presidency. He's not part of the ruling class establishment of the Republican Party. He wasn't part of the ruling class establishment when he was a Democrat. They're more liberal. And so they can't control him. When he talks about common sense, for him it is common sense. It's conservatism. Everything he's doing has been conservative. Can you tell me another president who's been more conservative, certainly up to this point? My great hero is Ronald Reagan. He's in a league with Ronald Reagan. And it's too damn bad that people who claim to have supported Ronald Reagan, not all of them, just a tiny handful of them, were among the cabal who were never Trumpers. Among the Bush people who were never Trumpers, I can understand them because they've never been conservative. Many of them tried to sabotage Ronald Reagan and prevent him from being our nominee for president. These are the same forces. The Mitch McConnell types, the Karl Rove types, and others. Even now, you will see our friends at National Review, and I like National Review. I've grown up with National Review. When Cato Byrne and John O'Sullivan ran it, they asked me to be a contributing editor. I was a contributing editor for many years. Rich Lowry's a very, very good man. They have good people over there, Ramesh and some others who I know. Some I don't. But there's others too. And they feel the need to pretend that they're the real constitutionalists, that they're the real principled ones. But basically, and many of them are nice people, by the way, nice. But that's basically the echoing of your typical Republican or academic. We had this debate on recess appointments. All you have to do is actually study it and inform yourself rather than shoot from the hip. Do we like them? No. Have they been taking place? Yes. Why? In reaction to the Senate that has abused the appointment clause. And we can go on and on and on. They say no retribution. It's not retribution when you're trying to find out who came very close to destroying our justice system and our electoral system. That's not retribution. That's justice. That's transparency that's very much needed. The American people were dragged through hell by these people. And they don't get to just walk away. And so here's a piece of the New York Times. Justice Department is said to discuss dropping case against Eric Adams. Now, when that case was brought, you may recall, Mr. Producer, in America, I said, what kind of case is this? It looks so petty. It's a petty case. Are there things there that you might do or you could do to go after the mayor? Of course. Or anybody else for that matter. I read a couple of weekends ago on my Life, Liberty, and Levin program, 1940, a speech given by, at that point, Attorney General Robert Jackson. He would later become Associate Justice Robert Jackson. He would also take a leave of absence to be the chief prosecutor at Nuremberg for the American government. A remarkable man who was appointed first in the Department of Justice by Franklin Roosevelt, but he wasn't really a Roosevelt Democrat. He was much more of a moderate. And he didn't get along with Hugo Black, who was FDR's first appointment to the Supreme Court. He'd been a lawyer for the Klan in Alabama. He was a bigot against Catholics and Jews while he was on the bench. His son even wrote and talked about his father's attitude toward Catholics. But all that said, Jackson gave this very famous speech, and I wanted to make sure I made you aware of it, so I read significant pieces, relevant pieces on the air on Fox. And he pointed out, we don't have to go to the Soviet Union. He pointed out that when you have prosecutors who focus on the man and not the law, who seek to do personal justice as they see it rather than actual justice, they're the most dangerous people in any society, because they have the power to impanel a grand jury and indict. It's the rare grand jury that doesn't indict when they're encouraged to indict, without the target of the indictment actually having due process, because that's not the nature of a grand jury. The prosecutor has enormous power in the courtroom in determining when cases will be brought, because judges often defer to them. They certainly have the power in determining what charges are going to be brought. They have some play in what jurisdictions they can use, all through the process. What evidence they're going to put forward, what kind of a crime they're going to charge, that is, 34 felonies, as in the case of New York, or jaywalking. Then after the trial, if the defendant is found guilty, they have a big say on whether that person, on sentencing. Right up through the process. The whole thing. And so if they're targeting the individual, most cases, doesn't have a shot. And Jackson was giving this speech to a room filled with federal prosecutors. Jackson having once been a federal prosecutor. Warning them that the powers they have, the powers a prosecutor possesses, are like no other person in the American society. The power to utterly destroy. Utterly destroy. And so when that happens, as it did with Smith, when that happens and a judge rubber stamps it, as it did with Chutkan, and I'm talking about the federal level now, and you'll notice how they attacked Cannon because she actually was an objective, nonpartisan judge whose rulings really are bulletproof. They really are. That opinion she wrote on the unconstitutional appointment of Jack Smith, that's a top-level law review article. That's what it is. Judges and their clerks can't write that well. She did. Well, they're looking at the Eric Adams case. New York Times says Justice Department is said to discuss dropping case against Eric Adams. Senior officials under President Trump have talked with prosecutors in Manhattan about the possibility of abandoning the corruption case against Adams. Writes Maggie Haberman, William Rashbaum, Devlin Barrett, and Jonah Bromwich. By the way, New York Times, one of the ways you can save money, you don't need 4 reporters, all overpaid, to write one article like this. This is a leak. So you don't need 4 of them. And Maggie Haberman, she should be on the pink list, the pink slip list. That is, she should be on the list of being fired because she's not a reporter. She's Jim Acosta in a dress. That's right. Maggie Haberman's Jim Acosta in a dress. The officials have spoken to Mr. Adams' defense team. Also, since Trump took office, the people said the defense team is led by Alex Spiro, who's also the personal lawyer to Elon Musk. Wow, that's a conspiracy. Look, lawyers have a lot of clients. And so what? Adams was indicted in September on charges of bribery, fraud, soliciting illegal foreign campaign contributions. You know, when you listen to this, it's, oh, my God, throw the book at this guy. But when you actually read the indictment, you scratch your head and say, excuse me? He got an upgrade on an airline? That's a contribution from the government of Turkey? I mean, are you serious? And you go through these things. He's targeted. Because the guy behind him, the guy that would take his slot should he be convicted and be removed before an election, is a radical Marxist socialist. The article goes on about nonsensical stuff. The two men, Trump and Adams, have met. They seem to get along. So what? The Trump nominee Deputy Attorney General Tom Blanche, who was Trump's personal lawyer in his criminal cases over the past 2 years, is a former federal prosecutor in the Southern District of New York. He wasn't part of the discussion, a senior Justice Department official said, speaking on the condition of anonymity. That's right, because he has to get confirmed as the Deputy Attorney General. He shouldn't be, for his own sake. And that's okay. It's not unusual for leaders of the Department of Justice to discuss high-profile criminal cases with their counterparts in Manhattan. There's no indication the Manhattan prosecutors are inclined to drop the case, but the timing of the discussions before Mr. Trump's choices for Attorney General and U.S. Attorney in Manhattan have been confirmed raise questions. They don't raise questions. Raise questions with you. The idiots at the New York Slimes and their Democrat Party and left-wing operatives. They don't raise any questions. It's a stupid case. And again, it's an overcharged case, in my opinion. Is this what the Southern District in New York has time for this stuff? Apparently so. It's like they all have time to get Donald Trump. And we always need more resources out there. That's what I used to get as Chief of Staff to Attorney General. We need more resources. We need more resources. We need more resources. They never have enough. But look at this crap. I'm no special pleader for Eric Adams. I don't know him, never met him, never shook his hand. Nothing. Who cares? It's irrelevant. I call him as I see him, and what I see here is a really stupid case. A really stupid case. I don't know if they'll drop it or not, but this is what's so remarkable and quite frankly invigorating. You not just have a new president in town, you have a completely new president with a mindset that is so utterly and completely different from the Maggie Habermans, from the Mitch McConnells, and all the rest of them. All the rest of them. You see that in few human beings during the course of your life, or if you look back, even not that far you look back. You see it with a Netanyahu, you see it with a Churchill, you see it with a Thatcher, you see it with a John Paul II. You see it. You marvel at it. You're amazed at it. And the people who are in power, or who are appendages to the people in power, they're frightened. They fear it. They fear their own social status. They fear their own power. And they lash out, and they sabotage. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
This country was founded on freedom. Freedom from a country that forced us to buy overpriced tea, then try blockading us when we dumped their tea into the ocean. How'd that work out? Well, it's time to throw your overpriced big wireless contract overboard, too. You don't need to pay $100 a month per person just to get a free phone. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, says no to inflated prices and gimmicks. With a qualifying plan of just $45 a month, you can choose a free iPhone 14 or a free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans. And yes, this is for a premium service. Unlimited talk, text, 25 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot at a fraction of the price of the big three. All on America's most dependable 5G network. Get your free iPhone 14 or Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans by visiting puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free iPhone or Galaxy with a qualifying purchase from Pure Talk. America's wireless company, my wireless company. Meanwhile, disgraced ex-New York Jersey Senator Bob Menendez. It's kind of sad, really. New York Post. Ben Kochman. He cries as he begs for leniency, but gets 11 years in prison for gold bar bribery scheme. A teary-eyed Bob Menendez was sentenced to 11 years in prison for selling out his Senate office to enrich himself in an infamous corruption case that has forever branded him Gold Bar Bob. First time I've heard it, but what do I know? The disgraced New Jersey Democrat, former head, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, cried as he begged the court for mercy after being found guilty of trading favors for foreign governments and businessmen in exchange for cash, gold bars, even a Mercedes-Benz convertible. You know, that's where I condemn him, Mr. Producer. Those Mercedes, they spend a lot of time in the shop. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? I don't even have a Mercedes. I've heard people tell me this. I mean, if you're going to shake somebody down, you know, maybe get a Lexus, the Caddies are nice, the Lincolns are nice. You know, step up your game, you know, get a nice Italian racing car, Maserati even. So I do condemn him for that. Somewhere along the way, you became, I'm sorry to say, corrupt politician, said the judge. Sentence was doled out after Menendez's lawyer, Adam Fee, argued in favor of a lesser prison sentence, saying the guilty verdict had scarred Menendez's reputation enough. Menendez, who led a committee tasked with approving massive sums of lethal military aid, did favors for Egypt and Qatar. This Qatar is a bad country. It is a bad country. In fact, Qatar and the Islamo-Nazi that runs Turkey, Erdogan, they've now said, we'll take in some of these Palestinian terrorists that the Israelis are releasing, because both of those men have funded Hamas, especially Qatar, which is doing God's work. Did you know? Oh, that's what I heard some guy say. The judge ordered Menendez to report to federal prison by June 6. He did not immediately rule on the fallen political's bid to stay free on bail pending his appeal of the verdict. Despite the emotional display for the judge, Menendez's demeanor shifted outside court, and he claimed the report was part of a political witch hunt. Trump has yet to speak out about Menendez's case. Maybe he won't. And Menendez has voted in favor of impeaching Trump twice during his first term. Well, I guess that's that. You vote to impeach Trump on 2 phony impeachments. Why should he do anything for you? But Donald Trump was right, Menendez claimed. This process is political. It is corrupted to the core. I hope President Trump cleans up the cesspool and restores the integrity to the system. When asked repeatedly why he was claiming the case was political, given what was brought against him by another Democrat, former U.S. Manhattan Attorney General Damian Williams, Menendez slunk away and walked to a waiting car without answering. I would say he's explained this before. Obviously, it's not believable, but he's explained it before, which is that in many cases in his foreign policy positions ran counter to the Democrat Party and Democrat administrations. And it goes on, but it's really not worth reading any further. He will be in federal prison at least for a period of time. Probably get out on good behavior. So maybe he'll be in there 5 years, 3 years, 4 years. Who the hell knows? I don't know. But there he is. And remember, he held on to the very dear end, and Schumer wanted him to. Do you remember that, Mr. Producer? Schumer wanted him to hold on. Schumer, when that guy whose name I forget, the Republican, he resigned from New York. Remember, he was up to all kinds of stuff, and he resigned, and then the majority for the Republicans in the House dwindled to almost nothing. Menendez had already been indicted, and Schumer told him to hold on. Don't resign. I need your vote, or I won't be in the majority. That's Schumer. He's a hell of a guy, isn't he? The word sleaze is written all over that man's face. I'll be right back. This country was founded on freedom. Freedom from a country that forced us to buy overpriced tea, then try blockading us when we dumped their tea into the ocean. How'd that work out? Well, it's time to throw your overpriced big wireless contract overboard, too. You don't need to pay $100 a month per person just to get a free phone. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, says no to inflated prices and gimmicks. With a qualifying plan of just $45 a month, you can choose a free iPhone 14 or a free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans. And yes, this is for a premium service. Unlimited talk, text, 25 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot at a fraction of the price of the big three. all on America's most dependable 5G network. Get your free iPhone 14 or Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans by visiting puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free iPhone or Galaxy with a qualifying purchase from Pure Talk. America's wireless company, my wireless company.
The establishment's worst nightmare. Mark Levin. Call in now. 877-381-3811.
The roots of democracy are deep. And what we're saying is go to your local official, your local congressman, your local senator, and have them get to the president. But the roots of democracy are deep. People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time in terms of trying to get this done.
He figured out. He tried to catch himself there, Mr. Producer. Didn't he use the word erection before? What did he say? What was his sentence? Do you recall? Oh, Trump incited the erect. This guy's head is really in a very bad place. Can you play that again? I'm afraid it's going to be one of these nights where I can't get enough of this buffoon. Go ahead.
The roots of democracy are deep. And what we're saying is go to your local official, your local congressman, your local senator.
All right, stop right there. Go to your local official and go to your local congressman. Because obviously you're aroused. And he hasn't seen people this aroused in a long time. That's right. Go ahead.
Get to the president. But the roots of democracy are deep. People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time in terms of trying to get this done.
Yeah, see, in terms of going to... So let me tell you what's happened since. Our friends at the New York Post. Victor Nava. Senator Schumer turns off social media users after claiming people are aroused by Trump's federal loan freeze. Calm down, Chuck. I wonder what little Dick Durbin thought, Mr. Producer. Oh, yeah. You got to wonder what he thought. People are aroused, he said. So go to your local officials and go to your state officials because you're aroused. And he hasn't seen people aroused like this before. Ooh, one disgusted poster remarked after seeing the snippet of Schumer's press conference. Oh my God, I just ate lunch, another shocked person tweeted, including a vomity emoji. He couldn't use a different word, one ex-user wondered. Like people are focused. Guy goes right to the whatever. Many on X noted that Schumer had previously accused Trump 78 of having incited the erection. We have that clip as part of our mumblers. At the U.S. Capitol, on remarks from the Senate floor, let's get that ready, Mr. Producer. On remarks from the Senate floor shortly after January 6, 2021. He hasn't seen people this aroused since Trump incited an erection, one social media user joked. He just can't help himself, Julia, a Trump supporter, wrote on X, also including a vomiting emoji. Calm down, Chuck. Must be about the $50 million in condoms, another X-user quipped. Patriot Mom on X tweeted directly at the senator telling him nobody wants to hear you say that word ever again. And that's true. I mean, it's grotesque. But he's part of a very, very, rare group that made it on the Mark Levin Mumblers list that we've been collecting for at least 2 decades. So, Mr. Producer, we need to add this to that list. It's too good. You got to add it. But let's take a listen again. Every now and then people collect stamps, people collect coins, I collect mumblers. So let's take a listen to this. And among them you'll hear the very aroused, grotesquely so, Chuck Schumer. Go.
What are the kind of gadifying the ghost track?
They have an idea.
It calls they gave them
the withdraw, bringing U.S. home troops from home.
And the
you need somebody.
wait. So what? Finally, what?
Budget.
But resist we must.
and we will much about that be committed.
I'm a warrior.
You know, that it was.
I mean, they said that.
Look, the was it him?
Why? I didn't. If we, you know,
we can walk and chew gum.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. True international effort to pressure.
Been impeached for inciting the insurrection.
Donald John Trump incited the insurrection.
And what am I doing here? I'm going to lose track here. And
to confidence in the integrity.
Private economic. No, don't let him. You know how much I'm going to do with the deficit this year? Bridges and those bullets that are collapsing.
And, you know, it is not,
Happy birthday, dear Levin.
Part of I introduce some of you to some of the leadership of
Katanji drowned Jackson. You docs are good. If there's any angels in heaven, they're all nurses, male and female. God save the Queen, man.
President Trump incited an erection.
And mess with the women in America. Beer brewed here, it is used to make the brew beer in this refinery. Oh, Earth Rider, thanks for the Great Lakes. I wonder why it's called.
Participated in an erection.
Say hello to oyster bunnies. Come on up, bunny. He calls the erectionists who stormed. After I signed the PAC Act.
protect our assault, our bill.
What's going on here? They just turned off my. I'm going to go vote.
The roots of democracy are deep. And what we're saying is go to your local official, your local congressman, or your local senator, and have them get to the president. But the roots of democracy are deep. People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time in terms of going, trying to get this done.
Ooh, baby. It just shows you how stupid these people are, how base and ignorant they are. They just keep talking. That's all they ever do. Arousal, erection. It's just... And there's Letitia James. All 480 pounds of her, Mr. Producer. She's on MSLSD today. There she is. Of Albany. Says she's going to get Trump. She gets a judge. A judge who looks like, no offense, this guy's name I think is Erdogan. He looks like a guy with a raincoat and a pack of cigarettes. Little girl, do you want to smoke a cigarette? That's the way he looked to me, Mr. Producer. Did he look that way to you? And I say that with the deepest respect for the bench in New York and for the integrity of the judges. When the rest of the country thinks of New York and the judges, we always think of the smartest, the brightest, the most prudential, the most virtuous people on the bench, don't we? Marchand, this clown. I'm not saying the guy's a pervert. I would never say that a judge like this is a pervert. I don't know him, so why would I call him a pervert? I'm just saying what he looks like to me. From the movies, of course. He looks like... How dare anybody think I'm calling that judge a pervert? That would be outrageous to call that guy a pervert. I don't know if he's a pervert or not, but I have to assume he's not a pervert. I don't know what he's doing under that black robe, Mr. Producer. I don't even want to think about it. But I can't imagine he's a pervert. If he was a pervert, he wouldn't be there, would he? He'd be a perv, yes. But I would never say that. But back to Letitia James. Such a smart lawyer, isn't she? Did she graduate at the top of her class, I wonder? I wonder where she went to law school. I'm sure only the best. Only the best. To turn out such a such a scholar, such a profound thinker. The Brandeis of her time. Oh, yes. The Frankfurter of her time. And she's shoving Frankfurters in her face. I want to do something out of respect. I want to do something out of honor for Letitia James. It is what it is. I used to be a little bit on the heavy side, almost Zoftig, may I say, and I think I did. But since I had my terrible injury, I don't eat as much. I just don't. Although I'm starting to pick up, so I got to pull back. But that's neither here nor there. But I will never give up the reins. Like Mitch McConnell in the Senate. Like Dianne Feinstein before the final moments, God rest her soul. I will never give up the reins to Fatties United. I started it. I founded it. It's my group. I get to decide who is a member of FU. And so I want to announce tonight, mark it on your calendar, January 29, 2025, Wednesday night, that Letitia James, you are an honorary member of FU. And you fit into FU perfectly. And we have some great members on FU, don't we, Mr. Producer? Chris Christie, who else? Now, you have to be grotesquely heavy to be Jerry Nadler, even with the operation. Jerry Nadler is still built like the state of West Virginia, as far as I'm concerned. So we have a very remarkable group. Now, of course, the plane can't get off the ground. But if we were on a plane, we'd have to strategically balance it out. You know, we'd have to put Chris Christie on one wing and Nadler on the other wing. And now we would have, among others, and we have many, Letitia James. Because now she's a real FU. She really is an FU. Letitia, I'd love you to come on the program. Let bygones be bygones. I don't even know what that means, but let's let them be themselves. And let me just say, so I could say to you directly, personally, FU. FU embraces you. The members of FU, at least three of us, we embrace you. And we have a secret handshake. I can't really show it right now because I'm on radio. And we have a special hat. We got the whole thing. The whole thing. But let it be heard far and wide throughout the United States and the planet. Letitia James, F you. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
This country was founded on freedom. Freedom from a country that forced us to buy overpriced tea, then try blockading us when we dumped their tea into the ocean. How'd that work out? Well, it's time to throw your overpriced big wireless contract overboard, too. You don't need to pay $100 a month per person just to get a free phone. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, says no to inflated prices and gimmicks. With a qualifying plan of just $45 a month, you can choose a free iPhone 14 or a free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans. And yes, this is for a premium service. Unlimited talk, text, 25 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot at a fraction of the price of the big three. All on America's most dependable 5G network. Get your free iPhone 14 or Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans by visiting puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free iPhone or Galaxy with a qualifying purchase from Pure Talk. America's wireless company, my wireless company. Well, I'm happy to report that our friend Lee Zeldin has been confirmed as the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. Doesn't that sound like a crap job to you, Mr. Producer? Yeah, no, but he'll make the best of it. Don't get me wrong. So it's not about him. But what a crap job. I mean, seriously. You're walking around the place. You're surrounded by all these nerds, number one. Nerds and radicals. And they all weigh about 17 pounds. You know, they're very thin. They're wearing glasses, white shirts. Or, on the opposite side, You've got the ones with the radical, the hammer and the fist, the hammer and the sickle, red shirts, anti-capitalist, capitalist pigs, that sort of stuff. You get a real combination there. It's just, I don't know, it's not... I can hear the call now. Lee, I want to thank you for all your support. I'm going to make you the administrator of the EPA. Wow! I mean, wait a minute, what? That's right, Lee. But the good news is you have a good man in that slot. It's a very, very powerful position, and the agency is filled with saboteurs, filled with radical leftists who have weaseled themselves into these civil service jobs. By the way, most of the government's that way. That's why the Democrats freak out. We're going to freeze these grants to these radical leftists and so for 60 days. Oh, my God! And you see them, all of a sudden, their heads explode. Oh, yeah. And he starts davening really hard. Like, oh, my God. And his chin's hitting his belly. Oh, my God. Oops, I just dropped something I haven't mentioned for 2 months. You can hear this program through the podcast process. Go to marklevinshow.com. Hello, that's the mothership, marklevinshow.com. Click on Audio Rewind and select your favorite platform. Many of you already have a favorite platform. We're right there. All you have to do is search Mark Levin Show on that platform. It's very simple. I've told you that we have a YouTube channel. You can now find all my podcasts, interviews, specials. We do special things there. People are very aroused to see this, Mr. Producer. I've noticed. I've never seen them this aroused before. Aroused on YouTube. YouTube.com at Mark Levin Show, or search Mark Levin Show in YouTube. And hopefully you'll get excited, not aroused. That's a whole Schumer thing. Did you notice how many times they all talk about erection? Oh, it's an erection. It's a sick... I think it's kind of a sick group. Donald Trump did something quite beautiful today, and he had pushed this through with the Republicans, who did a great job on this. And that's the Laken Riley bill that had passed. The perpetrator who murdered her would not have been in the country. This guy had been released, came back. These so-called sanctuary cities are sanitariums, mental institutions for the left. And the consequences are not imaginable. They're not imaginable. They are real. And they are horrendous. And they result in death. A Laken Riley Act was signed today. We're going to get into that a little bit. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. This is the Power Hour, Hour 3. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811, Mr. Producer. Let's start with Cut 5. President Trump today on the Laken Riley Act. 22-year-old who was murdered, assaulted, murdered by an illegal alien. Wasn't supposed to be roaming the streets. Cut 5, go.
But to me, this was the worst of all. It's a landmark law that we're doing today. It's going to save countless innocent American lives. I want to thank every House Republican, every Senate Republican, as well as the 12 Senate Democrats and the 48 House Democrats who voted to pass this vitally important bill, and many of them are with us today, and I really do appreciate it. And I very much especially appreciate the bipartisan support. The Democrats, really a big percentage of them came through, and plenty of them wanted to. They probably felt they couldn't, but they really wanted to. That they don't understand that would have made them a lot more popular, would have made them a lot better with their people. The ones that didn't are going to be, they're going to be sorry, because The people are not going to forget that they wouldn't sign. This is a perfect, incredible tribute to an unbelievable young lady.
Cut 6.
To each of these angel families, we love you and we stand in awe of your courage and your strength. It's the toughest thing anybody has to go through. Many of the angel families here today were betrayed by the last administration and with this heartless and foolish and really very, very arrogant and very, very dumb policies that aren't even believable when you talk about common sense. I say we're the party of common sense, but the Democrats also, they have plenty of common sense, and that's why so many are here today and so many supported what we're doing. The very government that was supposed to protect their daughters instead opened our borders and transported the world's most dangerous criminals straight into their communities. They came from prisons and jails and insane asylums and mental institutions from all over the world, not just South America. People think South America. They come from all over the world. They come from every continent. And they came here by plane, and they were loaded onto buses, and they were driven right up to our border, and they drove right through the border, and nobody even said a word to them. And in those buses and those cars and those trucks were some of the meanest criminals anywhere in the world. As of last September, 425,000 illegal alien criminals were roaming free, including 13,099 convicted illegal alien murderers, of which about almost 50% killed more than one person, and they were roaming all over the country in our farms, in our cities. Under the Trump administration, we're moving with urgency and speed to get these vicious and violent criminals the hell out of our country and to restore law and order to our suburbs, our cities, and our towns. And we're going to do it with Tom and with Christy and with all of the people that are working so hard on this.
Mm-hmm. And actually something what seems to happen every day with this president and his people, and that's something quite brilliant. Guantanamo Bay. Why do we detain illegal aliens, the most vicious and vile among them, at Guantanamo Bay? Who thought of that? I hadn't thought of that. Cut 7, go.
Today I'm also signing an executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. Most people don't even know about it. We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo. This will double our capacity immediately, right? And tough. That's a tough place to get out of. Today I'm also signing an executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. Most people don't even know about it. We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold.
We're repeating ourselves. Okay, very, very good. President's really on top of this. I want to play one discussion that Stephen Miller had with Jake Tapper yesterday on CNN, just to show how ignorant Jake Tapper is. My wife educated me some time ago. There's all kinds of visas. Many of them are temporary. So you get a specific visa to come to the United States for a sporting event. You come to the United States. A seasonal visa to harvest crops and help them with the plantings and so forth. There's all kinds of visa categories. There's not just one. And so when you bring in farm workers, they're on special visas to work on farms, to work in agriculture. Doesn't mean they get to stay forever. Doesn't mean they get to do anything else. They seek these visas. And they come into the country and they work, and then when they're done in the season, they leave. That's the way it's supposed to be. You come and then you leave. Apparently Jake Tapper didn't know anything about any of this, like so much else. Cut 8, go.
Department of Agriculture says that between 2020 and 2022, 42% of crop workers were undocumented immigrants. And in many cases, as you know, these migrants do jobs many Americans do not want to do. So How do
it's not that Americans don't want to do them. It's that if there's a competing job that pays more money, they will take that job. This guy doesn't even understand the market system. Anyway, he says, listen, 42% of the people who work on these crops and so forth are migrants. Therefore, he says, go ahead.
Make sure that the effort to deport people who are not in this country legally doesn't end up hurting Americans who want safe borders, absolutely, but also don't want to see even more higher prices in groceries.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's not your position, Jake. You're just asking the question that we should supply America's food with exploitative illegal alien labor. I obviously don't think that's what you're implying. Only 1% of alien workers in the entire country work in agriculture. The top destination for illegal aliens are large cities like New York, like Los Angeles, and small industrial towns, of course, all across the heartland, as we've seen with the Biden flights. Mm-hmm. None of those illegal aliens are doing farm work. Those 30,000 illegal aliens that Joe Biden dumped into Springfield.
I'm talking about the ones that are.
But I'm explaining this. It's important to understand.
No, you're kind of changing the subject. I mean, I'm talking about the ones.
I will give me 30 minutes. I'll go as deep as you want to this. We don't have 30 minutes. Audience.
I don't have a 30. I'm talking about the ones that work in the agriculture industry.
I'm
you can come back and we can talk about the ones in the cities. I swear.
I'll do the whole answer. The illegal aliens that Joe Biden brought into our country are not full stop doing farm work. They are not. The illegal aliens he brought in from Venezuela, from Haiti, from Nicaragua, they are not doing farm work. They're in our cities collecting welfare. As for the farmers, there is a guest worker program that President Trump supports. Over time as well, you will transition into automation, so we'll never have to have this conversation ever again. But there's no universe in which this nation is going to allow the previous president to flood our nation with
but I want to underscore his point because it's very important. It's a guest worker program, and there are other guest worker programs for agriculture, for seasonal workers. Come to the United States. This is the way it's always been, at least in modern times. They get a visa just to come to the United States to do whatever they're going to do with crops and harvesting or planting and whatever. And then they go home. If it is 42%, that's the 42%. It's not, what would we do without all these illegal aliens that Biden let in? We wouldn't get our crops picked or planted. That's dead wrong. They're not the ones doing that. They always have, who's going to pick the lettuce? Well, first of all, I don't give a damn. I don't eat a lot of lettuce. But besides that, you see how he screwed up purposely and spun the numbers? 42% of those who do the agricultural work in this country are migrants. Okay, then they're part of that program. They're part of the program. They're not part of the Biden mob that came into the country. So he looks like a fool because he is a fool. That would be Fake Tapper. January 27th. Just passed. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, one of my great mentors was Attorney General Edwin Meese. And somebody who I got to know very, very well there, a gentleman by the name of Steven Calabresi, who's now a law professor, has been for some time, actually. And Gary Lawson, who also worked at the Department of Justice, law professor. And Ed Meese's impact on the rule of law, on what we call constitutional originalism, things that you see taking place on the Supreme Court by the good guys, things that they've written, wasn't always that way. And there's a fantastic new book out called The Meese Revolution, which was written by Professor Calabresi and Gary Lawson, and is such a fantastic explanation of what took place in this country. It was a true revolution, a legal revolution that still has an impact today. And it's a pleasure to bring my friend Steven Calabresi, professor, on the program. Steve, how are you, my friend?
Terrific, Mark. Thrilled to be on the program and honored to be on the program. And I'm coming to you having just talked about the book at Yale Law School and Stanford Law School and the Hoover Institution, and have been touting its benefits.
Well, now you get to talk to real people. Who,
exactly.
Who,
exactly.
many of them.
Important.
Yes.
This is the important audience. The other audience is hostile and not important. But
no.
The message of the book is that Ed Meese is the greatest Attorney General of the 86 people who've held the job over the last 235 years, and we were both privileged to know him and work for him.
And why is that? You know, he came to the Department of Justice. He had worked for Ronald Reagan in California. He held legal positions there. He held political positions. He was his top confidant. They tried to prevent him from coming to the Department of Justice. He fights through all that. He becomes the Attorney General of the United States. And when you first met him, when you first knew him, did you think he would be this brilliant, masterful sort of philosopher in the law who would take the American experience and the American Constitution and press it in every corner of our republic?
I did not expect. I had high expectations for what it would be like to work for him. I started in June of 1987, but I never imagined that he would launch a sea change in American constitutional law. And he started that sea change on July 9th, 1987, when he spoke to the American Bar Association and graded the Supreme Court on its past term. And he gave the court an F on federalism, a solid B on criminal procedure, and an F on religious liberty, and announced that henceforth the Justice Department, in all of its briefs and opinions and in the judges it appoints, would promote a jurisprudence of original intention. And that was an historic change that has led to the 6-justice majority on the Roberts Court that we've seen in the last few years. And it's just an extraordinary change.
But he was also involved, wasn't he, in the appointment of Antonin Scalia, of William Rehnquist as Chief Justice. He had an enormous impact on the court, didn't he?
Absolutely, yes. When former Chief Justice Berger retired, he advised President Reagan to replace him with William Rehnquist as Chief Justice, and then to appoint 50-year-old Justice Antonin Scalia to the vacancy. And in doing that, General Meese replaced the second most conservative member of the Berger Court with the best Chief Justice in American history, and along with Justice Thomas, one of the 2 best associate justices in American history. And that was really his doing. I mean, President Reagan trusted him and followed his judgment, but he led the way in causing the Rehnquist and Scalia appointments to happen.
And what did he do in terms of advancing the argument? I mean, he was tireless, almost like Trump here, in giving speeches all over the country, giving speeches to bar associations, legal associations. And you're right, all the filings of the Department of Justice, criminal, civil, antitrust, whatever it was, it had this new birth of American constitutionalism that was spread throughout all of it, didn't it?
Absolutely. He gave more than 30 historic speeches, and it's tremendous fun to go back and reread them. He gave further speeches, elaborating on why originalism was a great idea and rebutting criticisms that had been made of originalism by liberal justices William Brennan and John Paul Stevens. And he gave speeches on the importance of federalism and reviving the idea that the federal government is one of limited and enumerated powers. He called for the overruling of the administrative state.
So we're going to continue. There's a lot here. I want the American people to understand how valuable this book is. It's called The Meese Revolution, and ladies and gentlemen, you are feeling its effects in a very positive way even today, right now. The Meese Revolution, the making of a constitutional movement. Steven Calabresi. You can get it on Amazon.com. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
So the heavy lifting for this book was by Professors Calabresi and Lawson. They honored me with allowing me to write the foreword to the book, which I was happy to do. I'm glad I did. The Meese Revolution is the name of the book, The Making of a Constitutional Movement, and that's the key. It is a constitutional movement. It's an ongoing constitutional movement. Now, Professor Calabresi, seems to me there's only one legitimate way, isn't there, to interpret the Constitution, and that's called originalism. It doesn't mean that those who practice it come up with the same result. You know, Thomas and Scalia didn't always come up with the same result, and there are various tributaries to that kind of thinking, but at least you're in the right ballpark, correct?
That's exactly right, Mark. I mean, the only way to interpret the Constitution is to give the words the meaning they had when they were originally adopted. And it turns out that when you do that, there is no made-up right to an abortion in the Constitution. There's no made-up permission for affirmative action in the Constitution. There is a Second Amendment that protects the right to keep guns in your home and to carry them with you in self-defense. Just so many important rights that are being vindicated now by the Supreme Court are the result of Ed Meese focusing the justices' attention on the original meaning of the words of the Constitution. And the country should be deeply, deeply grateful to him for what he's done. I think he is the greatest Attorney General of the 86 Attorney Generals we've had. And he really led an intellectual revolution and a judicial revolution that is without precedent in American history.
Yeah, and he did it through persuasion. He did it through ideas.
Yep.
The filing of briefs, essays, speeches, law review articles, and on and on and on. And through personnel, correct? Because the personnel at the Department of Justice were very carefully picked, weren't they?
They were very carefully picked, and Ed was certain to pick only people who were loyal to his and President Reagan's agenda. And Ed Meese's Justice Department picked some absolutely superb federal judges, not only Chief Justice Rehnquist and Justice Scalia, but also many, many other federal court of appeals and trial court judges. And Mr. Meese spoke about the importance of originalism in more than 30 historic speeches. He had the Office of Legal Policy in the Justice Department issue more than 30 100-page monographs on the original meaning of different clauses in the Constitution. Chuck Cooper, who ran the Office of Legal Counsel for him, issued an opinion in 1986 saying that Congress didn't have the enumerated power to create a national lottery. That was 9 years before the Supreme Court in the United States against Lopez began enforcing enumerated powers again. And it was really the first time since 1937 that somebody had doubted whether the federal government had the power to do something. So it was truly historic.
Mm-hmm. And you're right about the judges. I mean, we won't name them all because the public won't know what we mean, but we're talking about real, serious, brilliant men and women who, and he chose them as young as he could, so they'd be on the bench for a long time too, right?
Well, and a number of them are still on the bench and active now. Here in Chicago, Frank Easterbrook is still hearing cases. He was appointed by Mr. Meese and Ronald Reagan, I think, at the age of 37.
Can I tell you a story about that real fast?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
I was at the White House at the time, and my portfolio included working on federal judges in the Presidential Personnel Office under John Harrington.
Uh-huh.
And I worked very closely with Ken Cribb and John Richardson, who worked for Attorney General Meese, who was then counselor to the president. And so I'm looking for a very young, brilliant person to be a judge on the circuit, and I called Bob Bork. He recommended Easterbrook. I recommended Easterbrook to Ken and John, and Ken and John, well, we know who he is. And so Easterbrook has been on the bench ever since. Isn't that amazing?
It is absolutely amazing. And in fact, Ken Cribb and John Richardson were key aides to Ed Meese in accomplishing what Ed was trying to do. And in particular, they identified people in their 30s to be judges and people in their 20s like me to be special assistants. And they knew that the older generation of Republicans didn't really embrace originalism or Ronald Reagan and all that he stood for. And so they went with very bright younger people. On Mr. Meese's advice, President Reagan appointed many very famous law professors to the federal courts, Robert Bork, Antonin Scalia, and others. Probably about 8 or 9 of them, very, very unusual number of law professors. But that's because Meese cared about ideas, and he wanted to change the legal culture. And boy, did he change the legal culture. It is so different today from what it was when I went to law school that, it's hard to describe.
And I want the public to know there was no real opposition to these activist courts, the activist Supreme Court. There was no real intellectual challenge. There were little, bonfires here and there, but not very much. And he coalesced them and he pressed them, and he kind of streamlined them. He made it cool to be out there and to be arguing really what the Constitution meant and so forth and so on. He really was, for all the talk about, he really was a revolutionary in that regard, wasn't he?
He was a radical revolutionary. He not only wanted to undo the excesses of the Warren and Burger Supreme Courts, he wanted to correct some of the mistakes Franklin Roosevelt made during the New Deal era. He called for holding independent agencies in the government unconstitutional, something the Supreme Court is now beginning to take up and act on. So the changes he proposed were sweeping. He's the only attorney general in American history to argue for a theory of how judges should interpret the Constitution and legal texts. All of the other attorney generals have been have not addressed issues as foundational as that. So in that respect, also, he's truly amazing, and it's just a great, great privilege to know him and work with him, and great privilege to talk with him, as I did just the other day about this book.
Book is The Meese Revolution, The Making of a Constitutional Moment. I really want to encourage you folks. It's very readable. Go on Amazon.com or wherever you like to buy your books and grab a copy. You're going to be fascinated by all this. It's not just for lawyers or law clerks or law professors or what. It's for you. This is your country. Now, you were one of the founders originally of the Federalist Society, and that also kind of grew out of the whole Meese movement, did it not?
Absolutely grew out of the Meese movement and out of the Reagan Revolution. President Reagan, when he was president, was supporting freedom fighters in Afghanistan, Nicaragua, and Angola against communists. And those of us who were Reaganites in law school in the early 1980s thought that we would be freedom fighters just like the Mujahideen in Afghanistan and the Contras in Nicaragua and UNITA in Angola. Because actually universities were as leftist and hostile to Reagan as communism was. And that's what really was the impetus for the forming of the Federalist Society. Mr. Meese was kind enough to give many of his speeches at Federalist Society events, and he made the Federalist Society famous. And we've been able to pursue the mission of pushing for the appointment of originalist judges for the last 42 years. thanks to people like Mr. Meese and Justice Scalia and Judge Robert Bork, all of whom had placed great faith in us.
And you knew Antonin Scalia fairly well. We really do miss him, don't we?
I do really miss him terribly. It's very sad. February 13th will be the 9th anniversary of his death, and he was a loud and outspoken voice in defense of originalism and in defense of sensible readings of the Constitution. And I knew when he died that he was irreplaceable, and he has in fact been irreplaceable. But there are other good young justices who have stepped up and who are doing great things. And this current Supreme Court overruled Roe versus Wade in 2022, creating the national right to abortion, and it held that Harvard College couldn't discriminate on the basis of race against white men in 2023, and it found a right to carry a gun outside your home in 2023. So,
and that Chevron decision, the anti-Chevron decision, was mammoth.
That it was a huge decision, a huge, huge decision, because it said that judges would interpret the laws that govern government agencies, not the bureaucrats themselves. And so it was a reclaiming by judges of their power to interpret the laws.
So the bureaucracy wasn't in charge of making them and interpreting them, with very little opportunity for people to find a way to appeal them and to confront them. Yeah. And that was huge, right?
That was absolutely huge. And ultimately, one of the things that's the most important about originalism is that Ed Meese basically put the people back in charge of our democracy by diminishing the power of Supreme Court justices and confining the role of Supreme Court justices to interpreting the law and following it, and not to making it up, which is what the courts had been doing until very recently. So it's a really historic change, just an amazing change from anything that I saw when I was in law school, or even from what things were like 10 or 15 years ago. And Mr. Meese was instrumental in Supreme Court appointments long after he finished as Attorney General. He continued to lobby for the appointment of originalists to the Supreme Court, and he deserves a lot of credit for the originalists who've been put on the Supreme Court in the last 25 years. He was co-chairman of President Trump's transition team in 2016, and President Trump gave him the Medal of Freedom in 2019 in recognition of his great services to the country. And he's really he really is an historic figure, and it's just such an honor to know him and to have worked with him.
All right, Professor, we're going to have to run, but this is fascinating. We're going to bring you back, Mr. Producer. Let's bring Steve back in about 3 weeks. I want to pick up where we left off here, because I think Ed Meese is one of the underappreciated great heroes of republicanism and liberty in this country, and he did it in a legal way. So thank you for writing this fantastic book. That's number one.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, The Meese Revolution. Go to Amazon.com. Please grab your copy, folks. And Steve, we were going to have you back soon, because I got more I want to explore here. It's fascinating to me. Take care of yourself, brother.
Thank you. I will. I look forward to it, Mark.
All right. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Oh, yes. I didn't get to anywhere close to all that I had prepared for you. We prepare for this program. I prepare for hours and hours throughout the day and night. Mr. Producer's busy pulling clips. Every now and then I'll see clips that I want him to put on the list. We're a very well-oiled machine, wouldn't you say, Rich? 23 years now. I don't have an entourage. I've got Mr. Call Screener, Christian. I've got Mr. Producer, Rich. We have our friend, Darian, Mr. Darian, who handles affiliate relations. That's it. That is it. All these other big timers, they got like 7 or 8 people. They pull the articles for them. They write this. I can't do that. I can't do that. I have to do it. And so when you hear this program, you're hearing the real deal, not a front person who just regurgitates what's handed to them. Ladies and gentlemen, we salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine, our brothers and sisters in Israel, and you, the American people. Thank God for you. And I am blessed for you to be out there. And I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good evening.